This video contains mature subject matter. You are likely to encounter thoughts and/or beliefs that may or may not reflect your own. It is my hope that you can do this without resorting to attacking other human beings in the comment section. If you think this applies to one side of this discussion but not the other, you are mistaken. It applies to everyone. Well, hello there, and welcome to another J&J Tabletop video. My name is Jake, and today I wanted to continue the discussion that I began a little while ago about the removal of orcs from the updated monster manual. When I first made that video, I had just gotten the new monster manual here. I think I had it for at most a couple of hours. So now that I have a little distance, I wanted to help maybe clarify my points, give it a little bit more of a deliberate approach to try and just talk about what I think this means for the community as a whole. Now, because I know that a lot of you are going to just stop watching the video at certain points, I'm going to go in order of what I think is most important. I'm going to talk about why I believe this happened, why I believe, or what I believe this means for Dungeons and Dragons moving forward, and then I'm going to talk about orcs themselves. And believe me, it's going to be easy to make assumptions about me or the things that I may or may not believe based on some of the things I say. And I think it's important to watch the whole video. And if you make comments before you do that, it's going to be pretty obvious. So let's start at the beginning and start talking about why I believe we got here. First and foremost, I believe that communities are built upon respect. Yes, respecting people, even if they're different than you, or if they have different thoughts or feelings or beliefs than you. Now, a lot of you are just kind of shaking your head, yeah. But this applies to people that look at some and say, oh my gosh, you think such and such, that means you're a Nazi. Or, oh, you think so-and-so is such and such, so that makes you a snowflake. No. This applies to both of those people groups. And I was trying to make that point in my last video, because as soon as the conversation stops, that's when progress stops. And if there's no respect, there's no communication, because one side might say something that's actually valuable and the other will just shut down. They go, you don't see what I see, therefore you have no value. And that's the real danger, when we just look at people that are different than us and we just say, you have no value, your thoughts have no value, your beliefs have no value, your point of view has no value. That's the biggest and most important takeaway I actually take from this. And I think it's very disturbing, because you can't have community if there is no communication. It's actually kind of the root word is the same. And after all, why would someone listen to you if the only thing that you're presenting to them is you're going to attack them if they're different? Why would someone stick around for that? I don't like that at all. And if it doesn't take long, if you look around the internet, it won't take long for you to realize that people just do this to each other so routinely, whether it's politics, Dungeons and Dragons, sports. What is the thing? If the dress was blue or gold? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. And it's just such a core human issue that I feel like is just being expressed in the removal of orcs. Now, I feel like some of you are listening to this and be like, I really don't care, because why does the way one person play Dungeons and Dragons, why does that affect me? Well, I think a good reason to start might be a pretty significant shift. They removed a resource from the latest edition of the Monster Manual. And whether people see it as a problem or not, this is the very first Monster Manual that doesn't have orcs in them. That's, at the very least, significant. Now I'm going to move on to kind of why I see this as an issue, and I'm going to use some common comments that I got on the last video to kind of illustrate my points. And the first one I want to talk about is, well, you can just reflavor or reskin other options in the book. And in fact, there's even a chart that does give you some thought processes there. So because you can do that, like, there is no problem. And it's like, no, well, because I have to do that, you're actually just highlighting that there's a problem. You follow me there? So I realize I can reskin, I can reflavor, I can homebrew to to my heart's content. Like, this is something I've been doing for a very long time. Just because there are workarounds to an issue doesn't mean that there is no issue at all. And if the goal was to make this updated monster manual easier for new dungeon masters, why make them use that like catch-all? Why make them use what really is a backup plan? I don't understand that. I understand that you update a monster manual to make money. I mean, I'm not stupid. They're a business, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but just because there are ways to work around something doesn't mean that that thing doesn't exist. Another very common comment that I got on the other video was that since they removed all of the playable species in the new monster manual, there is no issue. And to me, I say, well, I want all of them. So you're just highlighting that the problem is larger than just orcs, which, I mean, I use orcs and we talk about orcs because that's the one everybody wants to talk about, but there are things that differentiate an orc from a drow, from an elf, from a dwarf, to, you know, like a gnome. Like, I want all of them in the monster manual. Why they would just remove that is, to me, you are just giving less. And I know I can just reskin them. It's like, oh, they're all just toughs. An orc tough is different than an elf tough. I don't see why is this like mutually exclusive? Like, it has to be all or it has to be none. Okay, if that's the line of thinking you're taking, give me all of them. To me, I don't see this as conflict resolution. I see this as conflict avoidance. And to me, it's not an elegant solution. To me, it honestly comes off as kind of cowardly. Another comment that seemed to have some common variations on that video was something along the lines of the existence of half-orcs have or had certain implications about how they came to be. Okay. Again, I think this is going to vary from table to table, but I think if you're going to use some more, we'll call it classic lore, like if you're going to take that Lord of the Rings, orcs are just inherently evil or incapable of good, then yeah, you're going to talk about that. But that is a story you could tell. And Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games, I mean, these are games in which often center around thwarting a great evil. And that could be, you know, a massive Tarrasque, a red dragon, but it also could be an evil elf. It could be an evil orc. It could be anything, a human being. It could be a gnome. It could be a troll, like whatever it is. And that's just the evil. That's just the adventure that you're going on. In the undead video that they had for this monster manual, Jeremy Crawford even said there's something refreshing about using undead because there's no real mistaking it. Undead are the bad guys, so you go after them. You don't have to like sit there and worry about the moral quandaries. But some people like the moral quandary, and depending on whatever kind of lore that you want to use for whether it's orcs or humans or elves, gnomes, it doesn't matter because you can change it. And you can use your own. If you want to go with that classic Lord of the Rings, go with it. That's fine. You want to change it to Warcraft? Okay, I don't know much about Warcraft lore because I never played WoW, but use that if you want to make up your own, all the better, because you're going to start exploring topics and situations that I couldn't even begin to describe because they're your stories. They're your imaginations. At the end of the day, role-playing, this kind of a thing is something you just talk about in a session 0. If you're going to have more mature themes in your game, get out ahead of that. Get out in front of it. Have those discussions ahead of time. And if that's not something you even want to bother with, then don't choose it. I would much prefer having orcs and half-orcs in the player's handbook, just like we used to have elves and half-elves. To me, I just think that's more options for more people for more types of games. But if something doesn't work for you, you don't have to use it. Everybody gets to decide that one for themselves. Now, regarding orcs, there really are pretty much 3 things I'd like to address, or 3 points I'd like to make. First and foremost is, let's just start at the beginning. Orcs, they're not real. Regardless of what some people might want to believe about that, or I'll say it this way, orcs are just as real as dragons, or elves, or trolls, or whatever other creature you're going to find in the monster manual. They are fictitious plot devices that we use to tell stories. And those stories can vary in wonderful, wonderful, diverse ways. They, to the point where your imagination can't even comprehend it because it's just going to be a little different depending on who's telling it. And if it is the term monster manual, like, is it because the implication is we're calling orcs monsters? I mean, that's kind of why I want all of the playable species in there, because I think people are capable of great evil just as much as they might be capable of good. So again, that one doesn't work for me, but I'm listening. And, I know Pathfinder, I believe correct me if I'm wrong, Pathfinder, I believe, calls it their creature codex. Like, would that just make the whole thing more palatable? Would that just be easier to swallow? Like Mary Poppins would say, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. That one, I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering. Maybe I'm just grasping at straws there. But the last point regarding orcs that I want to make is much more serious, actually. I had at least one comment, I think maybe two. I don't think they were trying to be nasty about it, but they did bring up that orcs could be an implication for a real life people group. And I've heard actually not just one people group, I've heard multiple kinds before. And to me, I can just very genuinely tell you, if you look at the description of an orc and think that represents real people in some way, that one says way more about you than it ever will about me or anyone else that's reading it and has no problem whatsoever. That one comes way out of left field for me. That's not even remotely close to true. Now, you might be watching this video and think like, okay, Jake, you're just being melodramatic because you just want people to click on your video. And I mean, of course, I want people to watch our videos, but if you're going to just like quote unquote punish me for preaching understanding and respect and empathy and intelligence and maturity, sure, heap all of that on me that you want. I will gladly carry that. Because at the end of the day, like, this topic isn't even about orcs. To me, orcs are just a symptom, and the problem is how we treat each other. And I guarantee you, Wizards of the Coast could not possibly care any less if they put orcs in a monster manual. They just want to know that you're going to buy the monster manual. Now, that's a different topic because we've got different stuff in the monster manual, and you could debate the rest of it till the cows come home. But at the end of the day, if as a community we can't have mature, empathetic, and intelligent conversations about whatever topic might crop up next, we're just going to lose the resources again. So if you're Wizards of the Coast, why try to resolve a conflict when you can avoid it? Because if maturity and intelligence isn't important to their community, why should it be important to them? I don't know. I'm an introvert, so I look inward first, and I guess in this example, I look at the community as the way we can look inward together. So thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section. If you want to watch our first impressions of the monster manual, it's on screen. And if you also want to watch the first video I made, that's also on screen. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you have fun in your games, and be kind to one another. Believe me, it's worth it.